So Michael, I think you got a customer or two that's looking at visual analytics. Maybe
starting on the simple visual analytics, we're seeing adoption of visual analytics across a variety of sectors. Oftentimes in the front office, looking at sales data, marketing data, customer analytic type data. And I'm going to give you a quick case study of a company that has adopted us on the visual side to get transparency onto their business, understand their supply chain, things like that. So this is a company, New Balance. It's a privately held sports apparel company, about 5,000 employees. So this is New Balance, looking at the visual analytics. Their data landscape was somewhat fragmented across store-level data, point of sale, inventory, product. They brought us in 2015. This was actually they did an evaluation with about 15 vendors, narrowed it down to us plus one competitor, chose us, rapidly deployed in 2015. 60 analysts, 400 consumers. They got 100 published dashboards and analyses out there in the first year. And then this year in 2016, they've expanded their usage to look at additional use cases. Initially, the executives are trying to expand into China, so they wanted to have visibility onto the business in a global manner, in an executive kind of way. And then they want to look at the supply chain to understand their customers and let their customers understand when their product was coming to them.
You've got more than 400 consumers. Is this open to their customers? I'm not sure I understand.
There is a little bit of that, but that's not counted in those 400. I'll get to that use case. But this was internally, 60 analysts. When we say an analyst, that's a thick Spotfire client, an authoring client. A consumer license is someone viewing in the web. So that's the distinction there.
That's what I figured it was, but I thought I'd listen.
No, good question, yeah. But as you just pointed out, what about their customers? Well, the most powerful application they deployed in the first year was to create this extranet for their customers. So their customers could see when their product was going to arrive, understand the status of their orders, investigate any late shipments, if there's any missing inventory. And their customers were blown away by this. They'd never seen a vendor give them that level of visibility into their product and their supply chain. They'd never seen anything like it. So they're able to, a retailer is now able to come onto a website and look at the status of their order, understand what styles, what colors, what are going to arrive by when, and understand how they're going to stock their shelves and what they can promote. So that was a really valuable application. I mentioned the executive dashboarding. So in terms of this expansion into China, the CEO, CFO, and VP of Global Logistics and Supply Chain wanted to get a full visibility and picture of the global business so they could prioritize their strategy. And this global inventory picture allows them to understand different products that are going to move into different markets. If they manage their inventory, their supply chain better, how can they prioritize and get transparency onto their business? So those two dashboards alone just created an enormous value very quickly out of the gate. And they're just using simple visualization. They're putting the data together, but giving dashboards on the iPad for the executives, giving dashboards in the web for the customer. And then finally, internally, on the product development side, the folks wanted to understand what new styles were being developed versus forecast, what raw materials were being utilized, how they were doing product development in the design, but also the manufacturing side, and how they were on track to fill that supply chain and help fuel that expansion. So just simple visuals, but enormous impact on the bottom line and the strategy of the business, all the way from the customer to the executive to the product team. So we're pretty excited by that, and we're able to expand the operation. These case studies are typically a setup, some use cases, and then what the account is doing right now. So in 2016, got a question?
Yeah, citizen data scientist, how is that different from a data scientist?
Well, yeah, this is someone who's not really writing code or doing anything in great depth, but doing the sort of thing Brad just showed, where they're able to just quickly do a cluster analysis on a graph, or
so a pretty savvy business analyst.
Yeah, savvy business user. Okay. It's really what that is. We're going to get into the data science part in a little more depth later on, but this is somebody who wanted to track the new styles, but wanted to look a little bit at how that was being clustered, how that was trending, forecasts, so those sorts of basic, predictive analytics available from the right-click menu in Spotfire, from, Brad showed just highlighting a graph, and you can invoke one of those entry-level data science capabilities. But that really whet their appetite. They were like, wow, we can get transparency on our business internally to drive our strategy. We can open it up to our customers. We can dig into the data internally. And so now they're on a journey with us to start to expand their capabilities that they're putting out to their internal users, advancing their analytics, basically doing more with Spotfire. They're on that journey of getting to more advanced calculations, faster data, more data, globalization, that sort of thing. So it's a classic Spotfire. Get in with the visuals, and then people are like, wow, I can do all this. Let me do more of that kind of thing.
How do I want to put this? Do you use any data source? It doesn't matter whether...
Any data source. We're about to go into the data wrangling section next, but yeah, we've got plenty of data connectors to everything, and we wrangle data immersively along with the visuals.
Okay.
That's a differentiator for us.
Yep.
In terms of the basic visuals, I wanted to also bring to the table, in terms of the most current BI report from an analyst, Howard Dresner, as you all know, long time head of the BI practice at Gartner, has put together over recent years this very comprehensive survey of hundreds or a couple of thousand people that are balanced across industries, functions, geographies, a really comprehensive methodology around the survey, this Wisdom of Crowds BI market survey that Howard does, and this came out earlier in the year. So we were quite proud of that.
So this is from your customers responding?
Well, Howard does a survey of a couple of thousand customers that are balanced across geographies, functions, industries, and this is the results of that survey. So it's not weighted or spun or evaluated by the analyst company. This is people in the industry who are in our world. In addition to Howard, there's other analysts, as you know, but the analysts are also getting to more of this raw survey focus. Gartner started off a sort of a Yelp for BI with this Peer Insights application that anybody can go up and do a review. And Trust Radius is a leader in that area. So our current scores in those self-service review sites, Gartner Peer Insights, we're 4.3 out of 5 compared to our competitors, Tab and Click at 4.1, and Trust Radius, we're at 8.6, also higher than our competitors. So we're seeing an emergence of that self-service recommend scores that are out there.
They like it. So you see Tableau and Click as your biggest competitors?
Well, I guess I mentioned those because of the Gartner focus on the desktop.
And in particular for visual analytics, right, which is the kind of category we're in right now. But as you'll see, we rapidly move beyond that comparison. But this is typically, these kinds of surveys are structured around desktop visualization. That's been the kind of table that has been set.
Yeah,
so we compete there strongly, but then also we extend beyond that, of course. And there was a question here.
So far in your discussion and demo, I was going to ask the question, well, how do you compare with Tableau and Click, and finally we've got to it right here, because I think that's probably your biggest challenge, is to get out of the noise of those two other vendors. Because Click, very European, so probably giving you a lot of problems across the ocean, and Tableau obviously here. So the extent to which you can not just emphasize better service ratings from customers, but distinct functional differences between the products, I think that will be very good.
Yeah, and I wanted to introduce this now because we just covered the visual part of the product, and this is our score on the visual part of the product, because and the analysts are very different. Gartner focuses on desktop viz, and so in that world we are compared to Click and Tableau in the Gartner kind of view of the world. Howard has a more broad view of the world, and Forrester also has a more scientific, comprehensive evaluation of the software. So different analysts have their own lens, right?
What counts is how your typical customer looks at you.
Right.
Okay, not Howard. So also analysts have unique perspectives on things, and we tend to be 5 years out. But you got to make a sale today.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And these are customers in this survey, and these are customers who've done these self-service ratings. So this is very customer-centric and not subject to the foibles of an analyst's kind of take on it.
Maybe a suggestion is that when you go into a customer, as opposed to an analyst briefing like this, is to immediately say, well, our legacy is in visual analytics, but let me tell you right up front, you know, how we're going to the next gen, how we're going beyond that.
That's exactly what we're trying to do today. We introduced at the beginning the full picture, and now we've started with the visuals, and now we're going to take
I guess I lost part of the full picture then. Okay, so go for it.
So yeah, with the next part, we're wrapping up the visual. We're going to get into data wrangling, then we're going to get into some of the predictive and the streaming. You know, this is a journey that we're on today with you, from sort of simple entry level to some of the more sophisticated.
Another area that I feel is somewhat weak is the difference between descriptive and predictive analytics. That is, describing known data versus generalizing from known data. And the extent to which you can kind of shift and say, you know, look, visual analytics is really just good ways of describing known data. We're going to take you to inferencing beyond known data. Right. I mean, that would be a conceptual shift that would certainly get my attention.
Yeah, we're actually on that journey, but maybe we could have made that a little more explicit. But we're starting with visuals, we're doing some wrangling, and then we're going to get into doing more and predicting, and then taking those predictions into an event architecture and doing some streaming. So that is the journey we're on today.
Let me just add and build on what Richard said. The way the model for thinking about your product that you described at the beginning was most interesting to me because it had the emphasis on the action. And I tend to start out with the CEO and the board's point of view about where they're trying to take the business.
Absolutely.
And you as the strategy guy would understand that. And then you take their way of modeling or seeing the world, and you back into what you would need to be able to do, you know, down in the swamp, okay? But you guys, after introducing that really unique aspect of your thinking about what where you're trying to go with your product, in your presentation today, you jump down into start out in the swamp. You know, I would have started out at the other end and said, here's why we need to get down to where we end up, rather than saying, well, we're as good or better than all the other guys down there.
It's a great perspective, and I totally get it, and actually I agree with that in some sense of the word. But another thing that executives are concerned about is adoption. And, you know, very often, you know, the first question is, you know, are the customers going to like it? I mean, are our employees going to like it? Are they going to use it? But absolutely, you know, we will. You know, we just want to make sure that people understand that this is not some ugly duckling that also has superpowers, right? I mean, you have to be the same before you're different. That's the kind of philosophy that we're following here.